On this video, I'm going to show you what you need to do to poach sales guys so you can grow your HVAC company past $10 million or honestly, as big as you want to grow it. A lot of owners get stuck because they can't find good salespeople, or they find someone and hire them that looks good on paper, but in reality, they don't produce. I've dealt with this myself, and look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down exactly what has worked for me, how I recruit sales guys, where I find them, and how I structure things so the business stays profitable. If you're growing your company, and this is something you're looking to do and you're serious about it, this video is going to save you a lot of time and avoid a lot of the mistakes. So stay tuned and watch until the end. It's easier than you think. I'm going to break down what you need to do. First, before you go out and hire a salesperson, you have to have your lead generation on point. There's absolutely no need for you to hire someone if you just aren't getting enough sales appointments. If you need help with lead generation, do me a favor and look up xdigital.com, schedule a meeting, and my company will be more than happy to help you in any way that we can. Let's fast forward now and say that you have the call volume. Here's what you need to know and here's what you need to do. Some of the best salespeople already work for larger companies. They're either privately owned or they're owned by PE companies, right? So I like poaching from the PE groups. I really do. The reason is when PE acquires a company, the staff normally isn't loyal to the new owners. Private equity comes in, they create a corporate environment, they raise the ticket prices so much that the sales guy can't even be competitive anymore. And the average ticket for most of these PE-owned firms, somewhere between $20,000 to $30,000 per replacement. So let's say that you're a $1, $2, $3 million HVAC company. You might be bigger. You actually have a unique advantage over these large private equity firms. You can still be competitive and you can be personal. You can get to know your team, your customers way better than any of the large corporate companies can. So here's how to do this, okay? I've used Indeed personally to poach from these PE firms, and my ad is extremely clear. I'm gonna put it here on the screen. Can you see it? That's a screenshot of my ad. What I like to do is I go on Indeed and I target, my ad's very clear, I target $3 million plus sales guys who have experience and who I can easily plug and play. Look, I have no problem building team members, but I realize there's certain times where I just want somebody that I can bring in and get them rocking. What I offer them is 10% commission, no cap on their commissions, and somewhere between 3 to 5 sales appointments per day, a company vehicle, a gas card, and the ability for us to be competitive on pricing. Now, here's a disclaimer that you need to know. Make sure that you have a price book for replacements, so that way you could keep some good healthy margins. That way you don't end up just giving away units and for almost nothing, and the sales guy still makes 10% on anything they sell. Your price book needs to be set up somewhere between 50 to 60% gross margin. And if they hit that margin that you want, give them 10% of that. And only pay that 10% if they are hitting margins. Most sales guys only want a few things, okay? Here's what they want. The ability to work for a company that does quality work that they could stand behind, okay? That's one. The second one is they want a lot of leads. These guys are gas guzzlers, but lead guzzlers. And they also don't want a cap on their commission, would be the third one. If you can offer that, you can attract some of the best people to work for you, okay? I hired my sales guys as a W-2 employees. I know a lot of people are gonna be hiring them as 1099s. What I do is I try to avoid liabilities, and because I do control their schedules and I create a standard, they drive my company vehicles, I put them on a W-2. Hey, so quick interruption. Listen, if you need help hiring a salesperson and you want me to step in and help you, you could either email me at jose@xdigital and I'll send you over the hiring template that I use on Indeed, or let me know if you want me to take some time out of my day and I'm happy to help you and we'll find that right salesperson for you. Let's go back to the video. Once you start getting applicants, it is very important that you have a structured interview process. What I like to do is I like to have 3 interviews, okay? The first one is to get to know them and see if they're even a fit. The second interview is to go deeper into the sales process, how they handle certain situations. So for example, you could ask questions like, hey, how do you manage your attitude when you encounter someone who gets a credit declined? How do you navigate a dry spell? How do you handle objections, right? Those things you want to understand how they do them before you bring them on. I like to ask the hard questions up front to see how they manage those situations, because I also ask for 3 industry-related references from people they work with. Look, calling the previous owners that they work for is going to give you a ton of insight of who they really are versus who they're pretending to be on this interview you're having with them. I also like to see their track record from the last company they sold for. I look for closing rates, average tickets, number of appointments that they've ran, and I want to see, hey, for the year, where were you? How much did you sell? Okay, once you found a sales guy who can come in and close for you, you need to be able to make sure that the marketing team that you're working with can produce somewhere between 2 to 4 appointments per day. So you're going to need to be investing some money. You'll realize that it's a lot of work to produce the sales appointments. Some months are easier, some months are harder. And look, weather plays a huge role in having the board full for sales appointments each day. If you have a strong service department, you could always leverage them, and that side can also, we could use the tech turnover process to be able to produce and to feed some of those leads over to the comfort advisors. Next, I want to talk to you about how to create the commission structure from the gross profit of each job. So instead of just giving them 10% from the total amount, which is fine, we could still do that. We're going to grade them and we're going to create the commission structure from the gross profit. There are many ways to do this, okay? My way is not the only way or the best way. This is just the way that I found that works for me. This gives me the ability to sell at a competitive price, but also keeping the commission structure on a sliding scale. So for example, at Boost Air, our price book is set to 50% gross margin per install. What we do is we pay 10% of the total job value if they hit the 50% gross margin, okay? If they sell it for any lower, obviously the commission, it's on a tier basis and it drops. So I'm really a big fan of that because I can make money, my guys can make money, and everyone stays happy. My rule is 10% commission at a 50% gross margin for installs. But if you go any lower, I mean, look, we could still sell the job for less, but one of the biggest factors that's going to impact your margin is going to be the financing dealer fees. You'll quickly realize that the fees become extremely expensive. My biggest suggestion is to sit down and pick which programs you feel more comfortable with offering. We work super closely with Service Finance, GoodLeap. We have others, but those are our main ones. So what we do is we find the lower dealer fee programs and we stick with them, right? So we can have some consistency to be able to hit margins. So make sure that you sit down with your sales team and that everyone's aware of the plan. That way that they don't offer like 0% for 60 months and you get gouged with like 14, 15% dealer fee. Okay, next, the way that I track my sales performance on every salesperson, depending on which CRM you're using, this is going to be relative to your company. But if you're using anything outside of ServiceTitan, such as House Call Pro, Jobber, or anything else, you'll most likely be relying on spreadsheets and some end of the day form that's going to feed into the spreadsheet. What you're looking to track for salespeople is the following. Appointments scheduled, and this is daily, by the way. Appointments scheduled, appointments ran, appointments canceled, appointments rescheduled, how many follow-ups did they follow up for the day, and then lastly, deals closed. And the way that I set it up before, if you have multiple reps, you're going to be able to see each one of the closing rates per rep, and you're going to quickly realize who's the rock star and who's the one that's costing the company money by taking the good leads, right? So make sure you're tracking that, because if you're not, you're just going to think everybody's a rock star, and it's not like that. The next factor is to negotiate better equipment pricing to get better margin with your distributors. Once you start pushing, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 worth of equipment purchases, with one distributor, you could sit down with them, have a conversation to get better pricing. Look, it's important to negotiate with leverage and big goals, right? Distributors love commitments. For example, we made a commitment to buy, it was $1.5 million from Lennox in 2026. They offered us a lot of perks. One of the ones that I liked the most was that they're willing to give us back 10 to 15% of our whole marketing budget for the year. And look, to me, that's really good. I have a $1 million marketing budget for 2026, and your distributors are going to hold you accountable to make sure that you stick through what you said and honor the deal, right? So let's say that I don't buy that 1.5 million. Likely is that they probably won't give me that 10 to 15% back on marketing. So you got to honor your word as well. Look, the biggest advice that I can give you is this: never allow high-performing sales guys to keep you hostage or try to manipulate you. Those guys that are great at sales, a lot of the times they find a way to push for extra bonus or a special treatment. You as the owner, you have to be firm. You have to have a firm grip and do what's fair. And if someone crosses a boundary, you got to let them know that. If you ever find yourself with a great sales guy that's a producer but just not a culture fit, my advice to you is fire them. Don't allow anyone, no matter how good they are, how much money they bring, to ruin your culture or to hold your business hostage. If that ever happens, I'm telling you, let them go. Look, thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, I appreciate you for tuning in. Do me a favor, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.